morning. Excuse me. I'm not used to being on this side of the stage, so you'll have to forgive me. So my name is Lori Whittemore. I'm sometimes the church leader and sometimes I'm over here. Our service leader this morning is Reverend Sue Gabrielson, who you all recognize from a few years back. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Saco, Biddeford. We also want to welcome those joining us on YouTube and encourage them to have a candle or chalice to light when we light ours here in a few minutes. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whomever you love, we are glad that you are here with us today. The theme for the month of April is interdependence. We invite you to carry that theme with you as you leave us here today and into your daily life. We strive to be a green sanctuary. It gives roots and wings to our vision of a world where all people build toward a sustainable future and make reverence, gratitude, and care for the living earth central to our lives. We want to acknowledge that our building sits on the land of the Wabanaki Confederation, which includes the Abenaki, Maliseet, Micmac, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot nations. We invite you to take home the order of service for information and announcements, or you can leave it as you leave the sanctuary for recycling. Please silence your cell phones. There will not be a social hour today, as I will be getting ordained and installed at 3 o'clock, and you are welcome to come back. And there's going to be so much food. So.
Good morning, everyone. As Lori mentioned, I'm Reverend Sue Gabrielson. I am so pleased to be here this morning and to see all of you. As many of you know, I was a former minister here, have been commuting for the last couple of years from Costa Rica to Fort Myers, Florida, where I now serve the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Fort Myers, which sits on 12 beautiful acres of land once inhabited by the Seminole and Miccosukee peoples. Our opening words today are by Thich Nhat Hanh. People usually consider walking on water or in thin air a miracle. But I think the real miracle is not to walk either on water or in thin air, but to walk on earth. Every day we are engaged in a miracle which we don't even recognize. A blue sky, white clouds, green leaves, the black, curious eyes of a child, our own two eyes. All is a miracle.
And please join me in the words for lighting the chalice. This is our sacred promise, to gather together in peace, seek truth in love, all can grow in harmony with the divine. And please stand as you're able and join me in singing hymn number 338, I Seek the Spirit of a Child. This is a time in our service where we turn to greet our neighbors.
I don't like all this.
I have a story to read this morning. If children or children at heart want to come forward, I don't know what the protocol is, but I like to sit down here. Even if nobody's coming up. You can sit in the front pew, at least you'll be closer. So this morning's story is called Frederick. You can come down and you can sit closer if you want, on the stairs or on the floor. Here, I'll come down more. So this book is called Frederick. All along the meadow where the cows grazed and the horses ran, there was an old stone wall. In that wall, not far from the barn and the granary, a chatty family of field mice had their home. But the farmers had moved away, the barn was abandoned, and the granary stood empty. And since winter was not far off, the little mice began to gather corn and nuts and wheat and straw. They all worked day and night, all except Frederick. He's not working. Frederick, why don't you work? They asked. I do work, said Frederick. I gather the sun rays for the cold, dark winter days. I don't think they believed that. And when they saw Frederick sitting there staring at the meadow, they said, and now, Frederick? I'm gathering the colors, answered Frederick simply, for the winter is gray. And once Frederick seemed half asleep. Are you dreaming, Frederick? They asked kind of reproachfully, but Frederick said, oh no, I am gathering the words. For the winter days are long and many, and we'll run out of things to say. The winter's days came, and when the first snow fell and the 5 little field mice took to their hideout in the stones. It's still snowing here, isn't it? It's been a long winter here. In the beginning, there was lots to eat, and the mice told stories of foolish foxes and silly cats, and they were a happy family. But little by little, they had nibbled up most of the nuts and berries, the straw was gone, and the corn was only a memory. It was cold in that wall. No one felt like chatting. Then they remembered what Frederick had said about the sun rays and the colors and the words. What about your supplies, Frederick, they asked. Close your eyes, said Frederick, as he climbed on a big stone. Now I send you the rays of sun. Do you feel how they're golden glow? And as Frederick spoke of the sun, the 4 mice began to feel warmer. Was it Frederick's voice? Was it magic? And how about the colors, Frederick, they asked anxiously. Close your eyes again, Frederick said. And when he told them of the blue periwinkles and the red poppies and the yellow wheat and the green leaves of the berry bush, they saw the colors as clearly as if they had been painted in their minds. And the words, Frederick? Frederick cleared his throat and waited a moment, and then, as if from a stage, he said, who scatters snowflakes? Who melts the ice? Who spoils the weather? Who makes the mice? Who grows the 4-leaf clovers in June? Who dims the daylight? Who lights the moon? 4 little field mice who live in the sky. 4 little field mice like you and I. One is the spring mouse who turns on the showers. Then comes the summer who paints in the flowers. The fall mouse is next with walnuts and wheat, and winter is last with little cold feet. Aren't we lucky the seasons are 4? Think of a year with 1 less or 1 more. When Frederick had finished, They all applauded. But Frederick, they said, you are a poet. Frederick blushed, took a bow, and shyly said, I know it. And that is the story of Frederick. Thank you for listening. Our reading this morning is entitled Welcome Morning by Anne Sexton. There is a joy in all, in the hair I brush each morning, in the cannon towel newly washed that I rub my body with each morning, in the chapel of eggs I cook each morning, in the outcry from the kettle that heats my coffee each morning, in the spoon and the chair and that cry, hello there, Anne, each morning, in the Godhead of the table that I set my silver plate and cup upon each morning. All of this is God, right here in my pea green house each morning. And I mean, though I often forget, to give thanks, to faint down by the kitchen table in prayer or rejoicing as the holy birds at the kitchen window peck into their marriage of seeds. So while I'm thinking about it, let me paint a thank you on my palm for this God, this laughter of this morning, lest it go unspoken. The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young.
So this is the time in the service where we share our joys and our sorrows together. If you wish to do so, come forward and state your name and share your joy or sorrow and light a candle. And it's not a time for political announcements or other announcements, just so you know.
My name is Sonia, and many of you came yesterday to the memorial service for a former member, Clarissa, and it was so joyful, singing and stories and things about Clarissa that many of us didn't know, and even the things that we knew as a congregation about her that her family didn't know. It was wonderful.
I'm Randa, she, her, hers. I too want to celebrate the life of Clarissa as was celebrated yesterday. In particular, I reflected on Clarissa's life and thought so much about the candles. And so today I light a candle to light a candle. which is a way of sharing that we do in our church. I also want to celebrate that small group ministry is starting up in our church this week, and I'm so excited for this opportunity to get to know a small group of you better, and for you each to get to know each other better. So wish us all the best as we delve deeper into our relationships.
Hello, I'm Myra Robinson, and I'm standing here to ask for prayers for our choir director Ellie's grandson, Xander, who spent the night in the hospital after losing consciousness. They think it's from a virus and it was a febrile seizure, but they kept him overnight just to be sure. So send our thoughts and prayers to Ellie and her grandson, Xander.
And now I'll light one last candle for the joys and sorrows that are in your heart.
Let us join our hearts in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Holy is this place. Holy are the places of change and pain, the places of our struggle, where the rivers of our lives run white and fast, and we hold on. We hold on and grow. Holy are the places of change and pain. Holy are the places of connection, the places where we risk ourselves, where hands, touch souls, touch minds, and in awareness still, we change our lives. Holy are the places of connection. Holy are the places of becoming, the places of clear vision, where life and world are intertwined, and we can see forever in this moment and give thanks. Holy are the places of becoming. Blessed be and amen. And because I thought I was supposed to choose the reflective hymn, where you stay seated and sing after the prayer. It was supposed to be Spirit of Life, but I chose one anyway, and I think it just gives us the opportunity to sing again. So, our reflective hymn is number 1, may nothing evil cross this door. Today I want to talk a little bit about finding the sacred in our lives, maybe in contrast to the profane. So in seminary, there were 4 people, in this case men, but 4 people who we all study when trying to understand what is that intangible that we easily refer to as the sacred. So Vanderloo taught us that it is power, it is omniscience, it is the traditional sense of God, the ultimate being, or heaven. Emil Durkheim explained the sacred as ritual. Religious ritual or objects, even revered humans. So he would have explained the sacred as going to church, for example, walking a pilgrimage, but not just in a sacred place. Perhaps it was a walk on the field in Gettysburg, where if you have been, you can sense the power and the awe of what took place there. A religious shrine, a walk along the beach. Carl Jung said, "The sacred is found in universal archetypes, the collective unconscious." What is that? Well, those are the things that we recognize as human beings, separate from our culture, our race, our identities, our education. It's the moment when the sun rises and you can't help but be moved. When there is a birth of a baby. It's the awe that we find in nature, or perhaps in our relationships. And Rudolf Otto, who became my favorite theorist when it came to sacred things, talks of the numinous, something that both attracts you and repels you at the same time. Something that we would find wholly, W-H-O-L-L-Y, wholly other. It's what compels children to want to look in or maybe enter into that big drain pipe that they could walk through, both terrified and compelled at the same time. It is what compels us to go to the edge of the cliff as close as we can to look down. It is the tension between scary and terrifying and inspiring and awe that compels us and holds us. So there are all kinds of different ways to define the sacred, and depending on how we understand the sacred determines perhaps how much we might encounter it in the world. So if understanding your idea of the sacred is found simply in the presence of nature, then the sacred will be found abundantly around us. In those daffodils who are persistent and in spite of the storm and the snow are out in front of your church right now. If your definition of the sacred is only in a shrine somewhere far away, it may be a little more challenging. What's sacred to one may be not to another. Culturally, our religious traditions, our ethnic backgrounds, we all hold different things sacred. Not only that, but our idea of what is sacred changes over time and place. What once you held sacred and of utmost importance in your life may not be so anymore. But what's most important is, as individuals and as a collective, how do we find the sacred and have it in our lives? If our eyes are closed, if we are not open to the sacred entering our lives, if what we think is profane is everywhere, and we let it consume us, it is likely that we will not find the sacred. And sometimes it is hard. It is hard in political climates. It is hard when life is tough, when there is enormous amounts of grief. It is sometimes really hard to find the sacred. We need reminders, and thankfully, there are actually many of them. No matter how you define the sacred in your world. Gratefully, we have visual aids. We all need those, right? There are symbols that help us recreate the feeling that we may have felt in the presence of the sacred. They allow us to transport ourselves into a different place and time, sometimes just a little. What about smells? We talked about this. We had dinner last night. We talked about how a smell can transport you to a moment in time that was incredibly special, or connect you to your grandmother's kitchen, where the smell of cookies or pot roast was always present. There are smells of candles and other scents that transport us. It doesn't all have to be what we sometimes think of as sacred and only present in a church setting. Sometimes when you put the baseball hat on for the Red Sox, and I'm sorry if anyone else is a fan of a different team, but when you put on your Red Sox hat and you're transported for me, to the Red Sox game that I attended when I was a little kid with my dad and saw Carl Yastrzemski hit his 3,000th hit, and Fenway Park stopped. it stopped and honored this man. It was a moment in time that I'll never forget. And that baseball hat or that visit to Fort Myers for spring training is what evokes that moment of sacredness again. Some of you remember I used to preach about National Geographic a lot because National Geographic is a sacred magazine, and it's not because of the paper it's printed on. It's because the photographers and the writers were always sent out to find what was sacred, what was right in the world at the moment. Even during wartime and disasters, they produced the images and the stories that gave people hope. And so the National Geographic becomes a sacred emblem of what is holy in the world. It's why you can't throw it away. It's why there are 4 million copies in this congregation, I guarantee it, because you bring them to the church and you don't bring them to the transfer station, because who can get rid of a National Geographic? It is the sacred in our lives. There are events, accidental and purposeful, that help remind us, help ground us, help give us the opportunity to take that sacred pause. Maybe it's being here today. Maybe it's the 1 hour or less, if you're lucky, that you get to feel that holy pause. Maybe it's seeing a rainbow. Where I live in Costa Rica, we're only 9 degrees above the equator, which means, and we live up in the mountains, and we have this phenomenon called pelo de gato, the hair of the cat, and it's when there is moisture in the air that's not enough to really call rain, but it's enough to produce a rainbow. And so I wake up at 5:30 in the morning and there's a rainbow, and because we're close to the equator, it stays all morning long. We only don't have rainbows like between 11:30 and 1:30 because of the angle. And so all morning long with this pelo de gato, there's a rainbow. And it's impossible for me to ignore. It's impossible for me to think it's ordinary. Those moments of pure laughter when you can't control yourself and you just get hysterically laughing with someone that you love, encounters with children, those are the moments of the sacred that we discover. We access in all different ways. But sometimes it's hard, right? We walk this balance between the ordinary doing of everydayness, and our quiet awareness. How hard is that to balance for all of us? It took me a lot of minutes and days and almost a week to get here because of storms and everything else, and there's all this doing. And yet there are moments of awe. This week, my husband experienced snow in a way that he had not before. He had seen a few flakes and a little snow on the ground on a previous visit, but this was different. This was different. And I saw him in the driveway after all of the starting the generator and trying to plow and trying to get the water to come back and all of that, just standing outside, watching the trees collect the snow, and then the heaviness, and then the falling, those moments of time that are sacred. There is value in doing, of course, but there is also value in being slow and aware. That's what Frederick taught us in the book today, right? It was not just collecting the food and the doing and the squirreling away or the mousing away. He collected the words, the moments of sacredness that would sustain his family of mice over the cold winter. Thoreau wrote in Walden, "Why should we live with such a hurry and a waste of life?" He said, "We are determined to be starved before we are even hungry." He would say that those mice in the book were determined to be starved before they were hungry, wanting and doing just for the sake of it, not because there is a genuine need, or certainly not with the slowness required to discover the sacred. Discovering the sacred reminds me of our reading. We find it in the small things as well as the awesome. It's evoked by the events, the emotions, the memories, the smells, all of those things and more. But in the end, it is within our own beings. We can cultivate it, or we can ignore it. We can allow our concept of the sacred to be squashed by others. But we get to decide. We get to find it every moment of the day. We're responsible for discovering the sacred each and every day by being aware, by having spiritual disciplines that help us to access the sacred, whether it's yoga or meditation or prayer or walking in the woods or whatever it is that grounds your being, by surrounding ourselves with great people, this family, your church family, paying attention to our relationships, by making sure the symbols and photos and smells and rituals that connect us to the sacred remain part of our lives, and that we put on that Red Sox baseball hat every once in a while to remind us, and we show up in the congregation and we reach out and make that phone call. We are responsible for collecting the sacred into our lives every day. And by recognizing the sacred within each and every one of us, that we are sacred, that you are sacred. Perhaps if we can go so far as to understand that each and every one of us is a holy being, that we are all manifestations of the sacred, then wherever we look, we will find what is holy. Maybe obscured, maybe demolished by the profane or society or politics or whatever it is, but it's there, waiting for us to discover it again, to honor it, to know it. And maybe if we can do this in each of our lives, find this connection to the holy and the sacred, it is how we will finally bring peace to this world, even if it's in our little corner of it.
When we gather together as a community, we bring the gifts of ourselves, our hearts and our spirits, our time and our energy, our talents and skills to support the work of this church, here within the walls and out in the larger community. We also bring our gifts of generosity, giving of what we have so that the work of this church may continue. As always, half of our offering today will be sent into the larger community to support the work of an agency or organization that is making a difference in the world. And actually, for this month, we are building up our discretionary fund. So that's where half of the share will go to this month. If you're watching from home on YouTube, donations may be made by clicking the PayPal link in the video description, or you can send checks to UUCSB, 60 School Street, Saco, Maine. Please be generous with the ushers as they collect this morning's offering.
Please be seated. Do we have the video? Excellent. So we just thought you're welcome to sing along. You don't have to stand. There's just a beautiful song, I think, that captures the message from this morning that I thought we could enjoy before we finish up today.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. And he would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. But now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Questioning child's face, say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
Please rise in body or spirit as we extinguish our chalice this morning. As we release this flame from its faithful service today, we allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our paths today, tomorrow, and always. Our closing hymn is number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Please be seated.
It helps with the survival and maintenance of brain cells.
And I'd invite you to stay seated during the postlude after the closing words. And of course, all are invited back to this very special place for an afternoon of celebration and high church. There is no higher church than an ordination or installation in the Unitarian Universalist tradition. It's at 3 o'clock here. Richard Rohr penned our closing words. There are not sacred and profane things, places, and moments. There are only sacred and desecrated things, places, and moments. And it is we alone who desecrate them by our blindness or our lack of reverence, because it is one sacred universe, and we are all part of it. Let us go in peace until we see one another again.
formed and stored. That's astounding, because very few nutrients are able to reach this part of the brain. Another study, scientists injected a substance into the brains of animal mice. This can destroy their memory and learning ability. The scientists then gave the mice luteolin. The result? They saw a huge improvement in the mice's memory and learning in just 8 days. When I saw the data on luteolin, I knew I had to get it to my patients and readers. So I worked with my friends at Advanced Bionutritionals to create a comprehensive